Session 1. Hive of Villiany. Several weeks ago, Elrond from Rivendell received a message from Ascarniel at the inn at the last bridge requesting aid for the establishment. With business slow during the winter season, Ascarniel had noticed a rash of misfortunes. Wolves from the Darkenfold are attacking livestock of late, taking off with several sheep. A local beekeeper had vanished without a trace. So he asked Elrond if he could send someone to investigate. And so Tonla, a wood elf fighter, monk from Lorien, was sent to check out what was going on. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the old forest, Radagast the Brown was in his hut, his pipe smoke curling upward through the chimney. One of the gifts he had given one of the beekeepers at the last bridge a few years back was a hive of giant bees. Well, recently his honey rations have not arrived, so Radagast sent his apprentice, Lachlan, a young apprentice, to go and see what happened. And finally, somewhere in the north, the rangers had heard of the strange happenings at the inn at the last bridge. Not wanting any more misfortune befall anyone traveling along the road, the rangers sent Tarindil, a monk, to meet up with an elf named Tonla and see what aid they could offer. Third Age, the 7th of March, 1644. The inn at the last bridge is a cozy place to spend the night, and there are 3 patrons staying here: Tonla, Lachlan, and Tarindil. The innkeeper, Rubgrum, a barrel of a man with a gruff exterior but a good heart. He hears the sound of hooves and comes to greet them. He sees the little boar, Hamish though, and tells the group he will not allow it inside the inn, because he doesn't want his customers being contaminated by a wild animal. Lachlan is a bit insulted by this and says he'll just wait outside until morning. Lachlan, never having kept a secret before, immediately blurts out that he's not wild, he's domesticated. But Grum doesn't buy it and tells them to leave the boar in the yard. Leaden Grum, the innkeeper's son, hears the commotion and comes outside. Leaden introduces himself, and seeing that the boar is lost, offers to feed and stable it for them, which they accept. Rub grumbles about new customers acting like they own the place, and returns to his bar. Tonla asks for some food and drink, and soon enough, Bura Grum, the innkeeper's wife, arrives with some bread, cheese, and cider. She lets them know that Sansa Mossborn, who used to work at the blacksmith, died at the hands of bees a few days ago. Mentioning that the body is still at the church, Bura's neighbor, Will, was a beekeeper who lived in the mansion and farm. But for the past 3 days, he hasn't returned home. She asks if the party can look for him, and which they agree to do. After they finish their meal, the group pays their bill and heads to the village church, which isn't far away. On the way, they hear the sound of a hearty laugh coming from inside and wonder who could be in such good spirits on such a somber occasion. The church is built of fieldstone, though its walls are largely covered by creeping vines. It's humble but proud, like the village it tends. Entering the church, they hear the laughter again. It's coming from Father Alnick, a heavy man wearing an off-white robe and a brown rope belt. His face is round, cheeks bulging, and his bald head always seems to gleam with perspiration. A loud and hearty laugh that comes easily is heard when they enter. In the name of Iru Ilúvatar, I welcome you to this temple, travelers. I am Father Alnick, Shepherd of the Border. Do you require any service? He explains that Sansa died from bee stings, but allows them to examine the body, which shows no signs of that. However, they notice something interesting. Her fingernails were broken, and the skin around her fingers and lips were red and peeling as if from poison. When the party questions the priest, he claims to have no knowledge of her being poisoned. At 11 o'clock, they leave the church and walk past the farmstead where Will lives. The sound of buzzing bees draws them to the barn. Sure enough, It belongs to Helena Dunraith, who is in charge of the place while her husband is away. She asks the party to find her missing husband and, if possible, rescue the giant bees within the barn. The barn door appears to not be locked, but the windows are iciliac, so Lachlan climbs up beside the barn and peeks through one. Inside, the building is honeycombed by a giant beehive. Honey drips down from the ceiling and oozes down the walls from cells that have been opened, pooling on the ground below. A bloated body lies upon the floor near to giant bees. Using wild empathy, he soothes the bees and they allow the party to open the barn door and lead them out. The bees follow closely behind. Appearing hostile, the party tries to calm them, but the giant bees attack. Despite this, Tonla manages to knock one out, while Lachlan is stung by another, which dies as a result of losing its stinger. Helena is sad to hear of her husband's death and is disappointed that only one bee was saved. She gives them half the promised reward, amounting to 150 gold pieces. As they leave the property, they notice a large hole in the ground, as if but it looks too dangerous to climb down into its depths, so they leave it alone for now. By 1 p.m., the group makes their way to the local blacksmith. The village blacksmith occupies a squat, smoke-filled shed from which echoes the sound of hammer striking metal. The pounding is relentless and angry. The front double-hung door is open at the top to form a counter. Orin Mossborn nods, saying swords and mail. An immensely strong, an enormous man, 6'9" tall and nearly 300 pounds. His black eyes and long dark brown hair are frighteningly unkempt, and he sports several wicked battle wounds on his face. Tonlaw introduces himself, explaining that he's there to help, but Orin is suspicious and demands to know why they came to his home. The party explains about Sansa's death, and how they think her killer may have taken shelter in the Warren S beneath the hill. Orin calms down a little, realizing that he already went there once to retrieve his daughter's body. They walk up the hill to where the body was found, and discover a hole burrowed into the ground through soft earth. It measures about 3 feet in diameter, and clearly goes some distance below ground, as no end is visible. The earth is loose, and occasionally a bunch breaks way and tumbles into the void below. You can't help but think that could be your fate, should you attempt to climb down the shaft. Suddenly, a giant beetle erupts from the ground and attacks. As the party fights it off, they realize that the tunnels must be very extensive. Returning to Orin Mossborn for some rope to climb down, Tonla explains that it was these giant insects that was responsible for his daughter's death. Orin grabs rope and dusts off his old but masterwork quality sword and armor. He follows them to the warrens. The caves vary greatly in dimensions, the ceiling between 7 and 10 feet in height. The caves are all natural and erratic, etched into the limestone by an ages-old stream that has long since dried up. The cave floor has been worn smooth and offers no impediment. The entire cave network is completely dark. Eventually, the group finds more giant beetles with wings, and Lachlan stops to admire its beauty. Then, a giant beetle lands on Lachlan and bites him. The pain is unbearable, and he cries out as he falls to the ground. Orin takes care of the giant beetles, and Lachlan realizes these were blister beetles. Suddenly, an 18-inch tall humanoid with the wings, antennae, and legs of a cricket literally flies into their chests. He lets out a squeal of terror, clearly having not seen you, and the reason is all too clear. His face is a mass of painful welts and blisters, swollen so badly that his eyes are completely obscured. The party quickly calms and moves the injured Grig. Lachlan uses his experience with healing, bringing him back to alertness. Once he regains his senses, Seraph calms down and notices the party. He asks if they would mind if he joined them, and explained several members of his clan have disappeared recently and was one of the individuals tasked with discovering what evil was at work. While sneaking around the last bridge, he grew suspicious of Gaeran Hartson. The man acted strangely, slept in his basement, and stole out into the woods at night. Sarah followed him to the caves, but that's when he fell victim to the blister beetles. Realizing that the party wanted the same thing, he offered to join them. The tunnel opened up into a cavern where they saw a massive beetle queen sat in, and so this session ends.